Hi guys, for Take 3 Productions, I'm Kees with an early review for the latest Star Wars canon novel called Thrawn.
To defeat an enemy, you must know them. Not simply their battle tactics, but their history, philosophy. War. It's all you ever known, isn't it?
Now, this book is set to release in about a week. I got it very early. I am not really sure why, but I'm very thankful that I got it early because now I can just read it and get an early review out so that everyone can know what I think about this novel. Because so far I have read almost all the canon novels, and I say almost because I haven't read Heir to the Jedi, and I heard that was the worst one, so I really avoid that one. I don't really want to read that one anytime soon. I also have not completely finished Dark Disciple, but after 100 pages I was not a fan of that one. And other than that, yeah, I've read every single one of them, and my favorites so far are Bloodline, Lost Stars, and Catalyst. However, that top 3 might change. So before I go into the actual review, I will have to explain a little bit. This book is once again written by Timothy Zahn. Timothy Zahn is, if you know a little bit about Star Wars books, the writer of the original Thrawn trilogy, written back in the early 90s, which was a continuation of the movies, because the original Thrawn trilogy took place 5 years after the Battle of Endor, and that was a story about Han, Luke, Leia, Lando, and whatnot, dealing with Grand Admiral Thrawn after the Battle of Endor. However, last year we saw at Celebration Grand Admiral Thrawn being introduced into Star Wars Rebels. Star Wars Rebels, of course, takes place even before the original Star Wars movie, 2 years before the Battle of Yavin. And they also announced this book, Thrawn, which would be a prequel story to that, which would be an origin story to Thrawn, and like, how did Thrawn become Grand Admiral Thrawn that we now see in Star Wars Rebels? That would be the book was announced, and that was, at that point, a very big news drop because nobody knew that that book was coming. Everyone was like, oh my god, we're getting Grand Admiral Thrawn in Star Wars, and we're getting a book written by the one who wrote the original Thrawn trilogy, which are considered to be amazing, and it's like, everyone was hyped. However, always the case is, like, you have a lot of hype, you have a lot of expectations, you want it to be amazing. The question is, will it be as amazing as you think it will be? Because you are not really sure if it is. But after reading it, yeah, it really is as amazing as you would want it to be, I think. At least I think that a lot of people will like this book, because I did. I absolutely love this book. This is my favorite of the canon novels so far. I did not really think there would ever be a canon novel that would top Bloodline for me, but now there is. So, yeah. The thing about this book is that I was initially like, it's probably going to be really good. But the question is, why is it going to be as good as I think it is? And why is it as good as anyone thinks it is? Well, simply because Timothy Zahn. Timothy Zahn knows exactly how to write Star Wars. He knows how to make a story interesting, how to write the character of Thrawn, and how to write other characters as well. Because I was a little worried that, is the entire book going to be about Thrawn? No. He switches it up a little bit. He also gives a little bit of an origin story to Governor Pryce, also in Rebels. Most of the characters that you see in this book, you know from Rebels. Some new characters as well, especially the character that is with Thrawn the entire book, Eli Vento. Eli Vento, I thought was brilliant to put in there because he is an aide to Thrawn, and he is like the relatable character. Like, even though they make Thrawn very relatable, it still is a little bit hard for some people to understand his thought process, even though the book does a very good job at explaining his thought process most of the time. However, you still need an average Joe that everyone can relate to, that you have in Eli Vento. Eli Vento throughout this book always is basically what I was. Every time that Eli had a question, I was thinking the same thing, and I was like, oh, thank you. He was the guy that really carries the book, makes it as relatable as it possibly can. I thought that was just brilliant. Also, what I absolutely loved is the character of Thrawn. I already really, really, really like the character of Thrawn based on what I saw in Rebels and what I read in Heir to the Empire. I only read Heir to the Empire, but still, that was a great book. So, I knew a little bit about Thrawn going in, but the way that the book was able to fully explain that character, to show how he climbed through the ranks, I became the Grand Admiral, it was just perfect. And I was very happy to see his thought process throughout the book, because a lot of times throughout the book you get his thought process, like why does Thrawn do what he does, because that's something you don't really get in the show Rebels. You only see Thrawn do certain things, but this book is very able to dive into everything of that, really able to explain the character well, and it was just great to have that. Now, you don't need to have seen Rebels. If you haven't seen Rebels, though, I have spoiled some things for you. I wouldn't consider it big spoilers, because I knew a lot of it already going in. I knew where Thrawn would end up. I knew where Price would end up. I knew a lot of things going in, and still I was surprised by a lot of things already in the book. The thing about this book, you can read this book on its own. You don't need to know anything in Star Wars to appreciate this book, because it's just very well written. A very interesting story. You don't need to know Rebels. If you do, you will understand some references, of course. But if you don't understand Rebels, you will probably like it as well, because it's just a great book. There are great characters. It's very well written. And I would recommend anyone to read it, because, yeah, simply put, Thrawn for me is a 10 out of 10. A perfect score. I cannot recommend this book enough. As I said, favorite Canon novel, 10 out of 10. Read it. This book comes out in a week. I hope you guys get it. And if you get it, I wonder, what do you think of it? Please come back to this video when you have read it and let me know what you think about it. I wonder if this review convinced you to read it, and if you think it's as great as I think it is. Or perhaps you don't. Please, whatever you think, let me know in the comments below. You can find me on Twitter @DutchMovieGuy or my YouTube channel, The Dutch Movie Guy, and I'll see you later. Take care.